Hey YouTube, this is Alexander, and not too long ago, Google unveiled and released the Android L developer preview to developers. Now, this is a first for Google, and it gives developers a chance to get their apps ready for Android L. That way, there are more Android L compatible apps when it releases to the public. Now, currently, it's only available for the Nexus 4 and Nexus 5, which has left some Nexus 4 owners feeling left out in the cold. But rest assured, the great developers over at XDA have gotten together and got a working port running on the Nexus 4, so I'm going to go ahead and give you a full overview of it. So let's go and get started. So installing it is simple. It's pretty much like any other ROM. You just reboot into recovery, wipe data factory reset, then go to mounts and storage. You can format system, although I didn't do that and it installed just fine. Then you go down to advanced and wipe the Dalvik cache. Again, I didn't do that. I don't remember doing that and it works just fine. Then you go install zip, choose the zip from SD card, wherever it is, you find it, choose the zip and then flash it. Then it says you wipe the cache, but again, I didn't do that after and I didn't wipe the Dalvik cache after and it rebooted just fine. And then you can go ahead and install the custom kernel pretty much the same way. Although you don't need to do a factory reset for the kernel, you just wipe the Dalvik cache and the cache and you go ahead and install zip and the kernel should flash right over the current one. And then once you're done with that, you should be good to go. Now this preview does have some bugs. The bugs are related to both the port as well as the developer preview. Some bugs may not be fixable because the current code is not released for developers to go ahead and fix anything that is wrong with this ROM, but others like the port related bugs should be fixable. Now the first boot may take a few minutes, up to 10 minutes is possible, so don't worry, just sit back, relax, and wait for the boot to finish. You got that nice Android Wear boot animation, which should be coming as the final Android L boot animation. It looks really cool, I like it. And then you will see the Android splash screen and be greeted with the new lock screen. So onto the new lock screen. As you can see, we've got notifications right on here like iOS. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you swipe over to the left, you can get into your dialer or quick contacts rather to quickly make a phone call. You see that this has the material design elements all over the place. It looks really beautiful and I'm definitely ready for some material design to hit every other app. Now if we go ahead and lock the screen and turn it back on and swipe to the right, we have access to the camera. Now I'll say now the camera has pretty much been flawless. There are no bugs except for once when I was trying to take a photo within Hangouts. It sort of just hung up and then rebooted. But other than that, it's been fine. Now again, we can swipe down for the notifications. If we swipe down from the very top, we get access to the quick toggles, which I'll take a look at in a few moments. And swiping up will bring us straight into the home screen or whatever we were previously doing. In this case, it was the camera because I had just had that open. But for the most part, you're always going to go back to your home screen. Now, if I swipe down once from the top, you'll see we get the notifications. Something that is missing that's currently available is a clear all button. Now, that is sort of a bad thing because it can be cumbersome to have to swipe away individually every single notification. If we swipe down again, you can see we've got the quick toggles, we've got a brightness slider, which works a little differently than the auto brightness currently available. And every toggle is now clickable. So one tap and you're done, no longer hold to press. And you've also got a portrait orientation lock toggle, which is really, really awesome. If anybody's been asking for that, it's me. That is one of my biggest complaints currently with the toggles, but it's here now, no root needed, or at least in the future when L is released. Now, a bug that I noticed, or maybe just a feature they removed, is when you tap on the battery icon up top, it no longer takes you to the battery stats, unfortunately. It just sort of closes the quick toggles. Of course, if you tap the cog, it will take you straight into the settings, which is a good thing. But I just wish that they sort of kept the ability to quickly get into the battery stats. So going ahead and taking a look at the settings, we can see Wi-Fi looks and acts pretty much as you'd expect it to. Same with Bluetooth and the data usage. Everything's just sort of been reskinned and it looks really, really nice. Now Bluetooth works just fine. I'm not sure if NFC does, to be honest, but I'm sure it does considering most everything in this port works. Now adaptive brightness is sort of like how iOS does the auto brightness. Currently, if you have auto brightness on, it has the ability to jack it up from 0 all the way up to 100%, but with adaptive brightness, it now gives a threshold of maybe, let's say, around 15%. So if you have your brightness around 30% and you turn on adaptive brightness, the max it'll get is 45%, for example. It will no longer jack it all the way up to 100 if you don't need it. So it's really nice for it to be able to control the brightness a little bit better, saving battery life and not burning out your retinas. So next we have sound and notifications, which, as you would expect, has your sounds and notifications. It's also got the new Do Not Disturb mode, which is really, really cool, and in my case would be really handy. I'm sure a lot of people would find this very useful. You have the option to set when it turns on, the specific time it starts, as well as the time that it ends. You still have that nice looking blue in there, sort of reminiscent of Hollow. I'm not sure if that will be there in the final build, but alas, it looks not too bad. You also have the ability to toggle who can bypass this do not disturb, and then you can just turn it on at will right there if you'd like. And of course, you've got some other stuff like your ringtones, you've got how your notifications display, as well as other sound management tools. So if we scroll down just a bit and hit battery, we can see the new battery stats. They look for the most part pretty much the same, just again a little bit of a reskin. And I tried to use this guy as my daily driver and I just couldn't for one bug, and I'm not sure what exactly the reason for that bug is, but I'll tell you guys what it was in a little bit later in the video. So I can't really comment on battery life, although I can say that the standby time seems to be really good, and other people who have been using it have pretty positive things to say about the battery. And for you RAM junkies out there, I've installed pretty much what are my staple apps, and after having those installed and pretty much set up, I have about 1.4 gigabytes of RAM free. If we jump down into About Phone, we can check out the Android version and sort of the Easter egg, which is some red and blue blocks against a white background. And then we're presented with the old Kit Kat Easter egg if you long press. Of course, this is the Nexus 4. You can see the model. So that was the settings, which has been beautifully redesigned. Now, if we just take a quick look at the camera, as mentioned, I haven't had really any bugs with it. It works just as you'd expect it to work. You snap your pictures, and they're going to be just as good as the Nexus 4 can take them. Again, just the one bug that I did see was trying to take a photo while in the Hangouts application, clicking the paperclip icon and then taking a photo to attach one. But other than that, it's been just fine. Now, scrolling between home screens is just fine. I haven't really experienced any lags or hiccups while doing that. Opening some apps does yield a little bit of lag, but it's not that bad, hardly noticeable, and I'm sure it'll be fixed with the final version of Android L. Now, here you can see the calculator. It looks really, really beautiful. It's one of the other material designed apps available with the Android L preview. And you can see there are just all sorts of ripples and beautiful colors to sort of highlight the next version of Android. As you can see, here's the dialer, and it sort of has a little bit of a redone from the current one. Still got that white and blue color scheme, and I really, really like it. It again looks really beautiful. So a bug that I did notice with the Chromecast cast screen option was that the nav bar down there at the bottom you're looking at and the status bar up top disappeared the first time I casted my screen. I then had to reboot and they came back. I tried it again and it worked, but as you can see here, the third time I'm trying it for you guys, it just would not find my Chromecast, and it does work on all my other devices available, and I just couldn't get it to work with the Nexus 4 too well. So it seems to work sometimes, and then other times it just either doesn't want to find it or the buttons go missing and you got to reboot. But that is sort of an issue right now. Another bug, I guess you could say, which is the reason why I couldn't use this as my daily driver, was the back got really, really hot when I was on a phone call. I was on a phone call for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it was pretty much burning hot. I had to take the SIM out and switch it back into my Nexus 5. Now, I'm not sure if that's a problem with the battery or the Android L developer preview port, but either way, I couldn't use it as my daily driver, which is why I can't really talk about battery too much. Other than that, scrolling through home screens and everything, as mentioned, is pretty smooth. Opening some apps on occasion will yield the little bit of lag that I talked about earlier. Now, if you do have quite a few apps open and you see the new Recents tab, it will tend to lag here and there every now and again when you're opening up one of those apps from the Recents apps menu. It's not a huge deal, but the little bit of lag that it does show is a little bit of an annoyance. And I'm not even sure if you could call it lag. It's just sort of straight out a stutter when you open something. It just sort of freezes and then it'll open. Also, there's no clear all option so that you can clear all everything from the recents, and I hope that they add that in the final build of Android L. Another bug that I noticed, which I'm not sure if the port or something with all Android L developer previews currently available, but if you swipe down while you have no notifications in the lock screen, the time and status bar just go away. I'm not sure if that's a feature or a bug. It looks like a bug. It's kind of weird, but that is there in case you guys are wondering about any bugs on the lock screen. That's pretty much the only one that I was able to find. Another bug is when you try to reboot into recovery or make a backup or anything while in Clockwork mod, a bunch of apps will stop working. Super user specifically will definitely stop, and that's just a little bit of annoyance, not a huge deal though. And finally, the last bug that I can pretty much mention is the location. I believe this is a problem with a port, and hopefully the devs are working on a fix. But if you switch your mode from high accuracy to battery saving and then jump back into location, it switches itself back to high accuracy. Now, it's not a huge deal since that is already just an option it's switching itself to, nothing that's really out of the norm. But if you are looking forward to having battery saving or device only mode for location, you won't get it here because it's going to stick back to high accuracy. So just take note of that in case you guys were looking forward to having battery saving or device only. So another feature of Android L is the ability to display banner-like notifications, sort of like how iOS had notifications in 4 and below. If you get a call, rather than it taking up your entire screen and you not being able to continue doing whatever you're doing at that moment, it'll now appear as a nice sort of card-looking like banner. As you can see here, I'm getting a video call, and rather than it taking up the entire screen, I can still scroll through and do whatever I'm doing here in the Google Play Store without having to get back to it immediately. It's a really nice feature that I hope developers don't take the wrong way and put all their apps up there. Otherwise, it will be cluttered and not really as intuitive as Google designed it to be. So that was Android L for the Nexus 4, a really good looking port from the Nexus 5 and Nexus 7 versions. Everything is pretty much working for the most part, except for those minor bugs and glitches that I showed you. There isn't really much to do. You just install it like a regular ROM and you're good to go. So if you guys can get past those minor bugs and glitches and you want to try this out for yourself on your Nexus 4, I'll definitely recommend it. I will leave a link down below in case you guys are interested. So thanks to all those guys over at XDA working on this and everyone who's testing it, trying to get the bugs ironed out. I can't wait for the Android L public release to come later this year. That's pretty much going to wrap up the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe down there for more, and don't forget to follow me on Google+, Twitter, and Instagram. Until next time, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.